Welcome to the BXG Podcast, the podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet.
You think it's just going to be barbecue sauce?
Because if you actually read those books, it's just gobbledygook.
I really think clothes should be mandatory.
Speaking of Star Wars,
Captain America.
trailer reaction video. The next thing we're moving on to is the Netflix series starring Giancarlo Esposito, and it is called Kaleidoscope. And this is a show about a heist. However, the quirk to this is that it can be watched in any order. The episodes can be watched in any order, and they're not numbered. They're color coded. And so what we decided to do was we're going to pick an order week by week to sort of watch this by. And we're going to review as we go. And so when we have this sort of framework where other people would have watched it in a different order and have a different take on things, this is the order that we're going to watch it in. And so if you want to follow along with that, we will discuss what episode that we're going to watch next at the end of this review. So the episode that you chose to lead us off here was Green.
I did.
So
Green.
what were your thoughts on Kaleidoscope?
Okay, so in general with this episode, just kind of saw we have the main character in jail.
Yep.
In prison. Ray. And
Or at least at this time he's Ray.
At this time, he's Ray. So that's
Charles.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Yep.
And so it starts off with this, and this is before the heist.
Right.
The
It's
heist is
7
the
years,
story.
I want to say.
7 years before the heist. And so he's trying to figure out a way to break out. And so I would say the setup of that was fairly clever. I had two main, I would say, struggles with this particular episode. And it doesn't, I want to watch this the whole way through. I feel like it's the only thing really, I mean, unless it's just 3 episodes deep and it's just completely awful. But I like Giancarlo Esposito. He's Gus Fring on Breaking Bad, and that's a classic character.
Right.
And when he shows up on other things, he's always like a really good character on those shows. Or movies even. He showed up a couple things. It could just be me, but I have issues with him as the lead of a show. I don't know if he has enough pizzazz to carry a show. And the other thing is that it's this heist show, and he's supposed to be like any other time we've watched something with a heist. And I'm going to go with, I think the easiest route to go is like an Ocean's movie.
Sure.
Okay. And you have Danny Ocean, George Clooney. And I'm not going to give this comparison to George Clooney. I'm just going to give this comparison to Danny. Very smart, very charming, kind of exudes this, almost so much charm that there has to be something slick. It's slick.
Mm-hmm.
It's the car dealership. It's the car salesman.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Ocean could sell you, a 92 Toyota, any day of the week. And
sure.
I don't necessarily get that from this episode that Ray can do that. And I feel like if you're the leader of someone that's a heist, if they're a leader of a group of people that are performing a heist, henchmen, whatever you want to call it, that would be my issue there. I'm not necessarily saying Janie didn't watch the episode, but I was telling her my thought on that. And she's like, well, I could watch an entire episode of Gus Fring. And it's like, that may be the case. I don't know, because we haven't seen that. We've always just seen him as that side character. But at least in this episode, that was a little troubling for me. I also just thought in general that the acting was a little rough. For me, it felt, I don't want to go as far as saying robotic, but it didn't feel real enough for me to care so much about the characters yet. And like they said, there's no right or wrong way to watch this show.
Right.
And I honestly picked Green because I literally said, which episode should I watch first? And I typed it in and it came up Green. That was literally like what happened. It's getting like, I think it's 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
47. But there's only 32 critical reviews. There's not that many.
Yeah, it's not really that many. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to really use that. I would just say right now I'm a little iffy. But I'm interested in what I know the heist ends up being like a big deal thing, but I'll be interested to see where that really, really goes and how they actually perform it before I go too far into being like, because maybe he does turn it. Maybe this whole thing of him being not so much the car salesman turns into like he's the best car salesman I've ever seen or something like that. So
sure.
I will hold judgment.
Sure.
But on this particular episode, if this were just my own thing, I'd probably have been like, I'm out, honestly. But I don't mind watching it for the show because I think it's interesting to dissect things. And if it ends up being a thing like Blockbuster, where we write an episode that was better than any other episode, then I'd be down,
Yeah.
So, but what were your thoughts?
First and foremost, I think it's an interesting concept. This idea of it doesn't matter what order you watch this, because I think at the end of the day, it probably does. Like there is probably a recommended viewing. Like if you wanted to make the most sense, watch it in this order. And so my thought on that, and it's interesting you picked Green because it was suggested to be the best one to start with. My thought on this is I want to go in an order that doesn't make sense. I want to go in just a completely bonkers. Like I would be fine if the next episode was the heist. Or was the end.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's just a really cool concept, and it gives me sort of that vibe of a movie like what is it called, 7 pounds or 7 ounces, 21 ounces,
whatever. Like, I know what you're speaking of. Yeah,
it's like where you see like the disparate characters and they're going through their lives and eventually at the end they meet. And like, it's like, oh, well, this is how this happened. You all wound up here. And so it kind of gives me that vibe, or even like something like Memento, but not nearly as like carefully crafted. I thought the episode was fine. I was entertained. This is a kind of a prison break episode. They're not working with a lot of time. I think this was about 45 minutes without credits. So it's not like and I think that the other thing is that in terms of the time and maybe how they have to simplify things probably plays into you can watch this in any order thing. Because it is, being that it's kind of like choose your own adventure. It's not like you can have an episode, just thinking recently, it's not like you can have a 3-episode run of building up to the heist in Andor where it's like, okay, we're gonna introduce these characters, then we're gonna kind of flesh out how we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do it. It has to be these sort of more bite-sized kind of experiences. So I think that will probably in the long run hurt the show because you won't have the time to develop the connection with those characters. And like the second half of this episode where or I guess like the latter third more so than the second half, but where he's trying to rebuild his relationship with his daughter, it just doesn't, like, so early. And again, I think the nature of the show and the concept of what they're shooting for, those emotional beats don't really hit the way that you probably want them to. And maybe if you go in another order, they do. I don't know. But also the letter scene at the end where he's writing to her and it's like, just you and me, squirrel against the world. That was a little rough.
It was rough.
Yeah. I think that my thing with him as the lead, I don't mind him as a lead. It's just that with the characters that he's been playing recently, you mentioned Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, but also Better Call Saul. It is the same exact character as his character in The Boys, and it is not a far cry from his character in The Mandalorian. And Moff Gideon in The Mandalorian might be a little bit more like animated in terms of how he is this sort of evil guy. But I think that kind of what holds him back is Gus Fring is such an iconic role.
Right.
And he plays these other roles recently where he's playing very much the same. And I think that, like you're saying with Danny Ocean, he is charming. He is this sort of charming pants off, sell ice to an Eskimo kind of guy. And the Giancarlo Stanton characters that he's played, that he's known for playing, that are his most popular roles, are like menacing in the scariest way of, this guy's not a big tough dude. He doesn't look like he's particularly, violent or insane. It's just the calm beneath the storm that makes his character so scary. And I think by translating that into this guy who's like, I'm a criminal, and I got this kid and stuff. It's just like kind of a weird fit. It's almost square peg round hole to me a little bit. And I just, I think that he's an interesting actor, and it's part of the reason that I gravitated towards this show, is because I do like him. But it'll be interesting to see how he's able to, and he's like, recently he's talked about like wanting to play Professor X in the MCU.
Yeah.
And he said, I just want to play a good guy for once, because everybody knows him for being bad guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
And not just like bad guys, but like really like scary, menacing bad guys. He's just so, like, the Gus Fring character is terrifying to me. He's just so calm all the time. And so to see him play a character who's just outside of his box of expectations is a little bit jarring at first. But I left the episode like wanting to jump in and watch the next one. Like I said, I was entertained. It's the Netflix stink, man. I mean, that's just part of what it is. It's like it's almost the reverse of HBO, where if something average goes to HBO, it's on HBO, and now it's just almost automatically 1.5 better, just because it's on HBO, and there's this prestige to it.
Yeah.
And then when you're on Netflix, it's this sort of in the opposite direction, this 1.5 reduction, because it's just got this great value kind of wish feel to it, where it's just like, this could be good with maybe like $20 more million budget and 2 or 3 more recognizable actors. And that's where I kind of feel like this is going to be in the end. When we go through it the whole way, I feel like it's going to sit in that sort of 6 to 7 range, 6 on the lower end, maybe even mid 5s. And then, on the high end, probably like a 7. But it's just with the Netflix stuff, it's like, it's almost there. A lot of it's almost there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then it's just not. So, but like I said, I enjoyed the first episode that we watched, which again, we watched Green. So where do we go from here?
I think this is your pick now.
Let's see. My daughter's favorite color is, I want to pick a goofy order. So I don't want to just, say, so I'm actually going to look this up real quick. Like what the next episode is like in the run of the shows. Let's go with Pink.
Pink?
Yeah, Pink.
All right. Let's do it.
Yep. Pink is the next episode.
Pink.
So if you're playing at home, if you're keeping score at home, that's an E6.
If you're scoring at home, or even if you're
base.
alone.
Yeah. We have a throwing E9 and a passed ball. So I know we went a little long on the Last of Us, but this is all we have is just these two shows right now. It is this sort of time where there's not a lot going on, but business will pick up soon. But in the meantime, we will obviously enjoy The Last of Us. We will maybe enjoy Kaleidoscope.
Yeah, we don't know.
I hope so. And
I hope
maybe,
so.
check out some movies here and there. But what are your media recommendations?